You refresh the brokerage app for the fourth time tonight. The stock you picked 18 months ago is down another 6%. The kitchen light hums above your head, that flat, fluorescent hum that follows you when nobody else is awake. You're not selling. You've told yourself 100 reasons. The fundamentals. The story. The vision. None of them are true, and somewhere underneath the ribs you know it, but the cursor stays where it is. The position is yours. You researched it. You read the quarterly report. You built the thesis in a notes app at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday, and now the thesis lives inside you like a tenant who refuses to leave. Every time the price drops, you don't see a loss, you see a referendum on your judgment. On whether you're the kind of person who can actually do this. So you hold. The bank balance reads $4,217. Rent clears in 9 days. You scroll past 3 index funds quietly outperforming your pick by double digits, and you feel something close to contempt for them. Boring. Anyone could buy those. Your nucleus accumbens, the reward system buried deep in the brain, is doing something strange right now. It isn't lighting up for the gain that isn't coming. It's lighting up for the ownership itself. The fact that this thing is yours. Researchers call it the Endowment Effect, and evidence suggests it's the reason you'll defend a decaying asset longer than you'd defend a stranger. You close the app. You don't sell. Level 1 complete. But here's where most people stay. You're in the car. Stoplight. Red bleeding across the windshield. You realize, with a kind of slow horror, that this is the 4th time you've done this. The crypto bag from 2021. Down 78%. Still in the wallet. The side hustle you launched in 2022, the one with the logo you designed yourself at 2 a.m., the one that made $340 last year. Still paying for the website. The Amazon FBA inventory in your garage. 3 years old. You walk past it every morning and tell yourself you'll relist next weekend. A pattern is forming, and the pattern has your fingerprints on it. Everything you've ever built, you've kept. Everything you've ever bought because someone else told you it worked, you've sold the second it dipped. You're not lazy. You're not stupid. You read. You listen. But somewhere between the information going in and the decision coming out, something gets bent. It bends in one direction every time, and the direction always favors the thing you made. Behavioral economists have a name for the warm distortion you're feeling. Mike Norton, Daniel Moshon, and Dan Ariely described it as the IKEA Effect, the tendency to overvalue anything you assemble with your own hands, even a wobbly bookshelf, by a margin that has little to do with quality. You can almost see it now. The shape of it. The way your brain pays a tax on ownership and calls it conviction. The light turns green. You drive home with the bookshelf metaphor still ticking in the back of your skull. Level 2 complete. But here's where most people stay. You decide to fix it. That's the move, you tell yourself. You'll be disciplined. You'll be rigorous. You'll just optimize what you already have. So you spend a Saturday rebuilding the spreadsheet. Color-coded tabs. A custom dashboard with little green and red arrows. You watch a 4-hour course on the same losing trading strategy you've been running, hoping that this time the missing piece reveals itself. You restructure the FBA listings. You redesign the logo of the side hustle for the 3rd time. You buy a $97 course on how to relaunch a brand. Notice what you're doing. You're not asking whether the thing should exist. You're asking how to make the thing you've already built work harder. The frame is fixed. The question is locked. Every hour you spend inside that frame deepens the trench you're trying to climb out of. This is what cognitive scientists call functional fixedness, originally described by Carl Dunker. Your prefrontal cortex, the region that's supposed to evaluate options, is being routed around. When something is yours, the brain stops asking, "Is this the right thing?" and starts asking, "How do I save this thing?" The two questions feel identical. They are not. The bank account hasn't moved. The portfolio is still red. The garage still smells like cardboard. You've worked. You've sweated. You've optimized. And somewhere around 11 p.m., closing the laptop with a small dry satisfaction, you realize that nothing has actually changed. Effort has become a way to avoid the harder choice. Polishing the wreck is easier than admitting it's a wreck. Level 3 complete. But here's where most people stay. It clicks on a Tuesday. You're not even looking for it. You're reading a paper on a phone in a coffee shop, and the words Endowment Effect appear, and something in your chest does a small, surprise thing. Daniel Kahneman, Jack Netsch, and Richard Thaler ran an experiment in the late 1980s. They handed mugs to half the room. Then they asked the mug owners what they'd sell for, and the non-owners what they'd buy for. The owners wanted roughly twice what the buyers offered. The mugs hadn't changed. The owners had. You stop reading. You set the phone down. The latte has gone lukewarm. Your brain, you realize, is doing this to your money. Not metaphorically. Literally. The same neural circuitry that made those subjects refuse to part with a coffee mug for a fair price is the circuitry refusing to let you sell the losing stock, abandon the failing side hustle, walk away from the inventory in the garage. Loss aversion, layered with ownership, layered with self-concept. Three forces pressing in the same direction. Always. And here is the part that lands like a small detonation: the genuinely wealthy don't do this. Not because they're smarter. Because they were taught, usually by losing money first, to treat their own ideas with suspicion. To search before they build. To copy proven systems. To assume their gut is selling them a story. You watch the steam rise off the cup. You're not sad. You're something else. You're the person who finally has the name of the thing that's been eating you. And the name, it turns out, is the first weapon. Level 4 complete. But here's where most people stay. The next morning, you don't open the brokerage app. You open a search bar. You type the question you've been refusing to ask for 3 years. What actually works? Not for you. For anyone. You read the boring meta-analyses. The long-term index fund returns. The base rates on small business survival. The actual median numbers on the strategies you've been romanticizing, not the influencer numbers, the unflattering ones. The search is humiliating in a way that surprises you. Because the answer was always there. Boring, public, unflattering to the ego. A handful of broad index funds, dollar cost averaged over decades. A handful of business models with proven unit economics. A handful of skills that compound. You don't need a thesis. You need a checklist. This is the search-first brain. It treats ownership as a tax, not a virtue. It assumes its own ideas are worth less than the market's verdict, until the market says otherwise. Something curious happens in the brain when you do this. Neuroimaging research on belief updating suggests that the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the region that holds working memory and evaluates evidence, becomes more engaged when ownership is decoupled from identity. You're not abandoning yourself. You're just letting the data speak first. You sell the losing stock. The trade confirmation comes through. You feel a small, clean cut in your chest, not pain exactly, more like a window opening in a room that hadn't been aired in years. The bank balance updates. The cash sits there. For the first time in a long time, it isn't loyal to anything. It's just available. Level 5 complete. But here's where most people stay. The test comes faster than you expected. 3 weeks in. The side hustle, the one you almost shut down, gets a single inquiry. A real one. From a name you recognize. They want to talk about a bigger contract. And the old brain wakes up. Suddenly the project you'd quietly written off is alive again. Suddenly the logo you redesigned 3 times is resonating. Suddenly the 3 years of sunk cost are starting to look like vision. Your nucleus accumbens lights up with the same flavor of dopamine that kept you holding the losing stock. The story is back. The thesis is back. The tenant in your ribs is unpacking again. You feel it physically. A heat behind the sternum. The urge to immediately reinvest. To pour the cash you just freed up back into the thing you just freed yourself from. Pause. This is the moment the rewiring is actually tested. The search first move isn't to say no. It's to ask the cold question, the one Charlie Munger has spent decades preaching. If I were starting from zero today, with this cash, would I build this? Not, can I save this? Not, what would it mean if I quit now? Just, would I build this, from scratch, knowing the numbers I know? The answer takes about 6 seconds to arrive. And it's no. You reply to the email politely. You don't take the call. The heat behind the sternum subsides into something quieter. The cash stays where it is. The old brain has not been killed. It's been overruled. For the first time. Level 6 complete. But here's where most people stay. 6 months pass. The cash you freed up is in 3 index funds and 1 boring cash-flowing position you copied, almost verbatim, from a strategy a person with 30 years of receipts had published openly for free. You didn't invent it. You didn't customize it. You didn't redesign the logo. That last sentence used to feel like surrender. Now it feels like leverage. Something is changing in the way you make decisions, and it isn't motivation. It's mechanical. Neuroscientists studying habit formation, building on the work of Graebiel, describe how repeated decoupling of behavior from identity gradually shifts activity from the limbic system, the emotional, ownership-defending core, toward the dorsal striatum, where automatic, rule-based behavior lives. In plain language, you're outsourcing financial decisions from the part of your brain that bleeds when challenged, to the part that just executes. You sold a second losing position last month without writing a single Notes app justification. You shut down the FBA listings. You listed the garage inventory at a loss. The loss stung for about 40 minutes. Then it stopped stinging, because you'd already moved on to the next decision. You notice you're sleeping better. You notice you check the brokerage app less. You notice, and this is the strange one, that you talk about money less. The compulsion to narrate your positions, to defend them out loud, has quietly evaporated. There's nothing to defend. The positions aren't yours in the old sense. They're tools. The bank balance, for the first time in a decade, is rising in a straight line. Not steeply. Just relentlessly. Boring. Unowned. Compounding. Level 7 complete. But here's where most people stay. You're at a dinner. Candlelight on glassware. Someone across the table, sharp, mid-30s, clearly doing well, is describing a position they're holding. The voice has a quality you recognize. The slight tightness. The thesis. The story. The tenant in the ribs. You don't say anything. You used to be them, 18 months ago, and you remember exactly how unhelpful it would have been to hear what you now know. This is the wealthy mind operating at full capacity. Not loud. Not victorious. Not interested in being right. It treats its own ideas the way a careful surgeon treats their own intuitions, useful, occasionally, but never trusted without a second opinion from the data. It searches before it builds. It copies what works. It abandons what doesn't, on the same day, without ceremony. The IKEA effect hasn't disappeared. Researchers studying behavioral persistence suggest these biases don't get cured, they get managed. The amygdala still flares when something you built is criticized. The endowment effect still tries to steal your judgment. But there's a half-second gap now, between the impulse and the action, that didn't exist before. And in that half-second, the search first brain steps in. You check the bank balance one last time before bed. It's not what it was. It's not what it will be. It's just a number that, finally, isn't carrying your identity on its back. You close the app. You don't refresh it. You don't need to. The light in the room is the same flat fluorescent hum that opened this story, but you're not the same person standing under it. The position is no longer yours. And that, it turns out, is why it grows.